It will.
All right, I've got the recording on. Make sure your camera's on and all that good stuff. It's Tuesday, May 12th. It's G-period finance and accounting class. It's the last day of class for seniors, so we'll leave a few minutes at the end to celebrate. And I've got a couple announcements. Looks like missing the, you were supposed to take the test by last Friday afternoon, I believe it was. I don't have a test for Mr. Herman, Phil Hauer, Rukobo, Sean Dennison we've talked about, Walden, Ward, Wright, and Yell. And since it's going in Blackbaud as a test, it's got, this is our second or third test, so it's got a little more significant weight than a classwork or homework assignment. So, or a quiz grade. So make sure you do it because, you know, a zero note. I dropped one quiz grade, one classwork homework grade, and one participation grade, but there's no test grades dropped. So by not doing it, it does ding your overall grade. All right. Any questions or comments on that? Good. Good. All right. Okay. Here's the plan of attack since it's the last day, and then you guys that are juniors and a sophomore or two, you know, just one. Of course, we'll continue on, but I've skipped a couple chapters going to chapter 11, which is it's a crazy combination. It's called careers and taxes because I was trying to, you know, what's going to give us our biggest bang for the buck for the few remaining days we've got left. So my plan for today is we're going to watch 3. It's particularly appropriate, excuse me, for you seniors that are going to be heading out the door in about 3 months. And also thinking about college majors and some of the things that we want to talk that you want to at least run through your mind, particularly with college majors, which are setting up for what kind of career do I want, you know, once I'm done with college. So the first video is just kind of a real brief 3-minute intro, and then there's 2 10-minute videos. And I'm going to load online and also put it in Blackbaud. They're going to talk about it either in the second or third video. It's a DISC system. DISC, and it stands for dominance or driver, influence or expressive, steadiness or amiable, and compliance or analytical. And it's kind of 4 categories, and you go through it and look at the different attributes of those 4 categories. That's what's called DISC. It's an acronym for those 4 things. And you check off things that, yeah, this is the way I kind of process or handle these type situations. All right. And then you flip over the page, or I haven't done the online one. I guess you probably start spitting it out. And it tells you what kind of careers or professions that the way you just kind of operate on a day-to-day basis is best for you. All right. And they're going to talk about in these videos today, like, you just don't want to have a job to make money. I mean, yeah, we all need money. You got to pay the bills. You got expenses and all. But you want to do something that you like and enjoy. All right. If you like and enjoy, it's not a job. It's not work. It's a career and it's a profession. So I'm not going to collect it. I'm not going to grade it. I'll be curious to from what I know a little bit about each of you, how it would fall out. But I'm not going to grade it because there's no right or wrong answer. And maybe you juniors, when we get back together on Thursday, we'll spend a little bit, see how things fell out. All right. So that's kind of the plan for today. Any questions or comments? I'm not going to break too much time in between each video because it's a 3, a 10, and a 10, and I'd like to get through all 3 of those. Like I said, it's not a brain busting material, but it's, again, particularly you guys as you're looking at college majors and looking to head out the door here in 3 months or so, or maybe sooner if you're going to a military college, you're going to be playing fall sports. It's things to think about, all right? If you want to follow along in your text, we're on page 224. There's some fill-ins as usual if you want to keep up with that. So that's the plan. Any questions or comments, concerns, contributions? You good? All right, let me get this thing fired up. And hopefully it's going to work. All right. Everybody hear that okay and see it? We good? Anybody? Somebody tell me yes, no?
We don't see it. It is here.
I'm sorry?
We hear it, but don't. Oh, now we see it. I'm on.
Okay, all right, here we go.
Okay, so we're talking about careers, and that means you've got to think about your college major too. And that can be pretty intimidating. Some students get freaked out about this one decision because they think it will affect what they do for the next 70 years. Let me take a little pressure off. Deciding on a major and a career is not as hard as you think. It's actually pretty simple. Think about it. What do you love to do? What gives you joy? What are you naturally good at? What are your hobbies and your interests that you already are engaging in? You can turn this into a career. These questions will help you figure out how you're wired. And when you figure that out, you'll start to see what you might actually enjoy doing for a career. And that'll help you pick a major. You can even experiment a little bit. Once you get an idea of what you might want to do, then get a part-time job in that field or volunteer with someone already doing that kind of work, or just shadow someone on the job for a few days. Wear them out with questions. If you spend a few days or a few weeks doing the job and you absolutely hate it, then you know you're on the wrong track. Be smart. Invest time in making your decision rather than spending time fixing it later. And remember, just because a particular job pays well doesn't mean it will be something that you will enjoy. Sure, you need to make enough money to support yourself and your future family. Just don't get money and happiness confused. Money doesn't buy happiness. One last thought. The job market constantly changes, and so do you. The average job these days only lasts 2 or 3 years before someone's ready to move on to something else. So even if you decide this career doesn't fit you 10 years from now, it's not the end of the world. It's actually pretty normal. What's important is that you do what you love, you do what you're naturally gifted at, and when you do that with excellence, you'll find a way to make money. You won't have to worry about money if you do what you love.
All right, again, that's just kind of an intro. So let me go to the next one. Let me see if I can do this. I want that. Is that sound coming through okay? Yes? Can you hear it okay? Anybody? Can you hear me? Somebody give me.
Yeah, Mr. Gavin, you all good.
Okay.
I wouldn't use income as my primary way of choosing a career. I would use a passion for that career, a calling to that career, something that gets you excited when you think about that career. Now, obviously, then you need to take your talent, your passion, your calling, and find a way to monetize it in the marketplace. You can't just say, well, I'm going to be an artist and all artists starve, and so I'm going to get an art degree and starve. Well, that would be stupid. Instead, you need to say, I'm an artist. Now, how am I going to go into the marketplace as an artist and become one of the best paid artists of all times? I mean, let's bring in tens of millions of dollars and name ourselves Thomas Kinkade. So come up with a way that you go into the marketplace and create what might not be a genre that is always known for paying well, but the way you do it in the market enables you to earn, well, even better than a good living.
One time a friend asked me a weird question. We were having a conversation, we were having a cup of coffee, and he said, hey, John, what do your voices tell you? And I didn't really know how to answer that. So I said, what do you mean my voices? He said, well, I've asked 1,000 people that question, and nobody has a positive internal voice. Nobody's voice says, you sure are in good shape. You sure are pretty. You're the best person for the football team. You're going to get that scholarship. Nobody's voice says those kinds of things. If anything, they say the opposite. And most of us think they're friends, but they're actually our foes. And so I started to think about that in my own life. I started to listen for those voices of fear and doubt. Because here's the simple truth. Fear is like criticism. It only gets loud when you do something that matters. And that's what we're trying to help you do, is have a life that matters. So as you work on that, you're going to bump into fear. You're going to bump into doubt. And I certainly have in my own life. I mean, when I started to write books, I had a lot of fear and a lot of doubt. My first book was a funny book. It was a humor book. It was illustrated. And when I tried to write my second book, it was hard. I felt this gap between those experiences, and I felt this voice jump into that gap and say, who are you to write a serious book? Who are you to write a business book? Your first book wasn't a real book. It was based on a blog. There's pictures in that book. There's a unicorn in that book. You don't get to write a real book. When you start something new, a lot of us hear that. Who are you to do that? Who are you to think you have the talent or the intelligence or the courage to chase that new dream? It might be applying to a school. It might be going out for a play. But there's this fear and this doubt that gets loud when we try new things. And fear tries to hold us back. So what do we do in that moment? How do you and I be smart about that moment? Because you're going to bump into fear. Well, I think there's 3 things you need to do, and I love sharing this type of information. Dave Ramsey always tells me, John, inspiration without instruction is useless. So I want to talk a little about instruction. What do you do when you bump into fear? Well, the first thing you do is you write it down. You write down that voice. You know, fear is loud and big inside your head with so many colors, but you write it down on a piece of paper, and you start to see how small it is, how silly it is. You start to see for what it really is. The second thing I want you to do, I want you to refute it with truth, not argue with it, not go back and forth. You'll get tangled and lose so much of your day if you try to argue with your voice. No, I just want you to write one true sentence. Here's an example from my own life. One morning I got up. It was Monday morning at 7:30 a.m. and I heard this voice say, you're too late. The week is already over. And so I wrote it down. And I refuted it. I put one sentence of truth. I said, the week has just started. It's 7:30 a.m. on a Monday. I couldn't have more time available if I wanted to. So that's the second thing I want you to do. And the third thing, I want you to share that voice. Do you know what fear fears? Community. Fear is terrified of you connecting with other teenagers that have the same struggles, the same challenges, the same opportunities. Fear always tries to put you on an island, to isolate you, to make you think you're the only one that struggles with something. You're not. Right now, in this classroom setting, there are other friends that have the same struggles and the same fears and the same doubts. You've got to share those. And you've got to have a friend that'll walk this road with you. Because as we do this, as we work on lives that matter, we need support. This is a long road, and you're going to need people that walk it with you. So that's my hope, is that you'll think about your voices. You'll be deliberate about your voices because they're going to happen. You will have some fear. You will have some doubt. And when you do those 3 simple things. Write them down, refute it with truth, and then share it. That's the only way to really beat your fear. One of the words you're going to hear a lot as you work on your dream and your career and your passion is the word brand. So what does that mean? Well, a brand is really who you are and how the world sees you. Look at Nike, for instance. Nike is all about hard work and athletics and just do it. That's their brand. For me, my personal brand is about ideas and humor and insights. Those are the things I focus on. So in your life, what are some of those strengths? What are the things that you're going to focus on and develop? And as you develop your brand, there's going to be something that happens. And I wish it didn't happen, but it happens to all of us. And here's what's going to happen. You're going to get some criticism. You see, the truth is that nobody throws rocks at people who are laying down. Nobody bothers the average or the ordinary. But the second you dare to stand up, the second you watch this video and start to work on the things that matter to you, you're going to get some critics. Some people that don't like what you're doing or have feedback or maybe even throw a rock. So what do you do when you get those? You see, the problem is most of us don't know how to take a compliment and a critique. What's the first thing you do when you get a compliment? You try to shot block it. You say, oh, that was nothing. That's just something I like to do on the side. It was easier than it looked. It was a great team effort. We can't land a compliment anywhere on us. We try to fight that. But what's the first thing you do when somebody insults you? You focus on it. You obsess about it. You read that tweet or that Facebook status over and over again. And you struggle with what I call critics math. And critics math is a really simple formula because I'm not good at math. And here's what it is. 1 insult plus 1,000 compliments equals 1 insult. You and I, in the face of 1,000 compliments, will ignore those as we focus on the single insult we've received. And this happens all the time. I see this at businesses. I work with so many businesses that spend tens of thousands of dollars to convince one person that hates them to like them while they ignore all the people that like them already. And I see this in my own life too. I mean, my last book, Quitter, has 7 one-star reviews and 175 5-star reviews. Can you guess which ones I have memorized? It's not the 175. What do those people know? It's the 7 one-star reviews. And everybody struggles with this, even celebrities. I think about Larry David. He's the founder of Seinfeld, co-creator of the most successful sitcom in the history of television. He's also got a popular show on right now called Curb Your Enthusiasm. And about a year ago, he got to go back to New York. That's where he's from. He had a homecoming moment. And while he was there, he went to a Yankees game. And during the middle of the game, they found out he was in the crowd. And they showed his picture up on the big screen. And they played the theme song to his show, and 50,000 people started to cheer for Larry David. Can you imagine that moment? Can you imagine how that felt? Well, after the game, when the night was over, he was walking to his car. And somebody pulled up next to him, a stranger pulled their car up next to him, rolled their window down and said, "Hey, Larry, you stink." And then they drove away. Can you guess who Larry David obsessed about the rest of that night? Can you guess who he talked about to that reporter? It wasn't the 50,000 people. It was the one guy that had yelled at him. Critics math made a stadium disappear. Critics math made 50,000 people invisible. That's how strong it is. I mean, David Blaine can't do that kind of magic. So what do you do when this happens? Well, there's a few things that I need you to do. The first is I need you to identify what's feedback and what's hate. Don't watch this video and then go home and get feedback from somebody and go, "Hater, rocks," just like Jon Acuff said. No, they're 2 completely different things. And here's how you tell them apart. The goal of feedback is to cause improvement. Somebody gives you some advice that helps you. They give you some critique that helps you. That's the goal, to create improvement. The goal of hate is to create a wound. It has no other purpose than that. So separate those 2. And if you do get some hate, there's 2 things I want you to do. Number 1, I want you to react like Herb Kelleher from Southwest. He's the founder of that great airline. And about 10, 15 years ago, they had a problem with a customer. She was writing complaint letters, and they wrote her back every time to try to service her, but finally she wrote one that they didn't have an answer for. And it made it all the way up to Herb's desk, and Herb took out his own personal stationery, And he wrote her a 4-word response. And this is what he said: "We will miss you. We will miss you. Be free. Fly Delta. They have biscotti cookies. They're delicious. Be free." Some of you right now, as I talk about hate and criticism, you have that person in your mind. You know who exactly I'm talking about. Maybe you need to say to them, "We will miss you," and let them go. The second thing is you need to do the math the right way. I mean, think about it this way. 7 one-star reviews out of all the books I've sold equals 0.008% of the population. So for me to obsess about that would be like if you got a test grade. If you came home with a math test and said to your dad, "Look, I got a 99.992. And he said, What happened? What went wrong, buddy? I felt good about this one." "Oh, you have no future. 99.992. Oh. Your parents would never do that to you. So don't do that to yourself. Don't let the 0.008% of people in your life control your life and control your dreams. You've got to let them go, because as you build your brand, and you're going to face criticism, and I don't want you to get stuck in critics' math.
Any thoughts, comments? The takeaway was that feedback or constructive criticism creates improvement, whereas hate and negative criticism creates wounds. And I think we'll probably learn something from that. All right, one last one, and then pay attention that he's going to talk about this DISC kind of assessment. And like I said, I'm going to post it. I'm going to post the document in Blackbaud if you want to download it and do it. Or you can also go to that www.foundationsu.com, not the foundationsdigital.com, but the FoundationsU. We'll review some of those tools, and you can do the online version, which I would encourage you, because again, he's going to talk about it, but there's 4 categories that all begin with DISC. You answer some questions and check some things off, and then it kind of tells you, just how you operate and how you're wired, careers that you most likely will be more satisfied and more happy doing. Right? It's not hard, fast, only thing that you factor in for decision making, but it is something to think about. All right, so here we go.
As you begin to move forward in your career, one of the things you want to make sure that you do is you understand you. The better you understand yourself, the better you're going to know the type of job and career that's going to suit your personality type. For example, anyone that interviews here at Dave's office takes a DISC profile. They also go through heavy interviews because we want to make sure that we're getting the right person in the right role. It's better for everyone all the way around. The DISC profile is a simple test that will yield tremendous insight into how you process decisions, what your natural tendencies are. It'll help you understand you better and also help you understand others. For example, in the DISC profile, there are 4 different personality types. The D is decisive, the I is interactive, the S is stabilizing, and the C is cautious. You see, a D, the decisive, is a faster moving individual. They look at problems, they want to fix things. The I, the interactive, is a fun-loving person, but they're concerned about people. They want to make sure that everyone is having a good time. The S is stabilizing. They're focused on pace. They want to make sure that everything is progressing just fine. The C, the cautious, is focused on details. They love information. They want to make sure that processes and procedures are being followed. So as you begin to look at these 4 distinct personality styles, you want to understand which one are you? Where do you fit on this model? It's important to understand that because when you begin to know yourself, now you can begin to understand your own strengths and your weaknesses. Self-awareness is important. If you're only working for money, you're going to be miserable. You're not going to be happy. You want to find something that blends your skills, your abilities, your personality traits, your values, your dreams, and your passions. The key to being a successful person, it's all about relating with others. It's about understanding yourself, understanding how do other people tick? How can I communicate better with them? How can I relate better? If you can communicate and relate better with people, you're going to be more successful in your career. Go to foundationsu.com. Take a quiz to find out your DISC profile right now.
One of the things I spend a lot of my time doing is talking to people about this word awesome. And I'll say to them, what does an awesome life look like for you? What does an awesome career look like for you? What does an awesome path look like for you? And a lot of times the pushback I get from people is that they're just not awesome. Their industry isn't awesome. They don't believe deep down that they can be awesome too. And I always push back on that in my own way because the reality is we used to all believe we are awesome. Everybody felt that. And you know when you felt it? When you were a kid. Ask a kid what they want to be when they grow up. Ask a kid, hey, what do you want to do after school, after college? What's your dream? And nobody has a small dream. When you're a kid, you have big, wild dreams. You want to write a book. You want to be a doctor or a firefighter or be an astronaut. You want to go to the moon. Every kid has this big, awesome-sized dream. But along the way, they get smaller, don't they? They tend to shrink when you become an adult. They tend to get small and quiet and vanilla and gray. But sometimes you bump into a kid and they remind you that everybody can be awesome. And I'm reminded of this by my own kids. I have 2 daughters and they're amazing and fun. And one night I overheard them talking in the bathroom. Now, normally, if they're in the bathroom together, there's a huge fight and there's a toothbrush World War crisis incident. But this time, they weren't fighting. This time, they were actually talking about literature and books. And I heard my oldest daughter say something to my youngest daughter. She said, hey, did you know that the guy who wrote James and the Giant Peach also wrote The Twits? And there was awe in her voice. And her little sister, without missing a beat, responded, I know. He's got an amazing imagination, like me. Did you hear that phrase? Like me. Roald Dahl, who wrote those books, who also wrote Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, has been called the greatest storyteller in our generation. But to my youngest daughter, he's a peer. He's a contemporary. They're on the same level. He has an amazing imagination like she does. As a child, she believes that. She knows that's true. She knows that the world is wide open. There's so much possibility. But along the way, you start to lose that. And maybe that happens to you in high school. Maybe that happens to you as you get ready for college. People say to you, hey, what's your major? How will you ever turn that into a money-making major? And that's not to put pressure on your major, but I don't want you to go down the wrong path. I mean, there's college seniors I talk to, and they'll pull me aside after a speech and they'll say, hey, my mom always told me I'd make a really great lawyer. And my dad always said that too, and teachers told me that too, and I felt this pressure, and I took all these classes, and now I've applied to law school, and the truth is I don't want to be a lawyer, but I've gone so far down that path, and I don't want that to happen to you. I don't want you to pick a safe major or an easy major. I want you to pick an awesome major. Because I believe that you can be awesome. I believe you used to believe you are awesome. That's how my life was. When I was in the 3rd grade, I wrote a lot of bad poetry. And a teacher named Mrs. Harris at Doyon Elementary School in Ipswich, Massachusetts, laminated it. And she laminated it and she bound it with ribbon, and I felt like I was a published author. And that day, she put this tiny little spark in my heart that maybe someday I could be a writer. Maybe even though life got busy and I had to grow up and become an adult, I could be awesome again. You see, that's my hope for you, because I believe you used to be awesome. And I believe if you work hard and be focused and make the right choices, you can be awesome again. Sometimes when I talk to people, they'll say, I wish I was more inspired. If I was only inspired, then I would really change my life. Then I would really change this world. And they kind of wait for inspiration to find them like a pizza being delivered. As if maybe you can sit on your couch and one day the doorbell will ring and you'll walk there and there's your dream. It was delivered like a pizza. And they have all these words about what they're going to do. Someday I'll do this. What if? And there's full of words. Everybody's full of words. But here's the simple truth. Words don't change your life. Words don't change the world. Do you know what changes your life? Do you know what changes the world? Action. Actions always beat intentions. And that was my story for 10 years. I wish that this was me standing here telling you wise stories about the amazing life I've lived. But it's actually the opposite. A lot of the stories I tell you are because I got a bruise doing something a certain way, and I don't want you to get that bruise too. I'd love for you not to have that same scar I have. And so for 10 years, I sat in a cubicle, and I was full of words about someday I'll write a book. I'm going to write a book, and it'll be amazing. But do you know what I never did during that 10-year period? I never wrote. I never got up early to write. I never stayed late to write. I never researched. I never went to writing conferences. I didn't do anything associated with action. I just kind of thought the words would be enough to change my life. They weren't. They just flat out weren't. So as you look at your life, as you start to think, how do I change it? I want you to remember that. Action always beats intention. The things you do are always more powerful than the things you're going to do someday. So if you want to change your life, if you want to figure out your calling, if you really want to work on all the stuff we've talked about, be deliberate about creating a list of actions and then knocking them out one by one.
Staying positive, definitely, because I'm surrounded by a lot of negativity, and that's not something that I want to bring me down. I'd like to pursue my goals in life and not let things bring me down.
I can tell people what to do. I'm pretty good at doing that. I work really good with little kids, so I want to work with little kids when I get older. So be like a pediatric dentist.
Helping people, solving people's problems.
Some people say that I'm really good at sports. I got most athletic in my class, and a lot of people probably say I have really good looks. As you can see.
I'm very persuasive. I'm a people person. I like to talk to people. I can be pretty animated, and I'm hardworking and dedicated.
I'm very relaxed. You know, today is such an uptight world, you know, go, 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 and you kind of go with the flow. No drugs, though.
That I'm funny.
Definitely my determination. When I set out to do something, I don't stop until I get it done.
All right. I think that's a kind of a good, appropriate series of videos, particularly for you guys that are wrapping up your 4, maybe 3 or 2 years here at BCP, and I'm going to walk out the door here, I guess literally tomorrow, or figuratively tomorrow, graduation in 2 months. But some things to think about. Like I said, I will post this DISC career match kind of document with the 4 kind of categories of how you are wired, and you can either print it out and do it on paper, or again, you can go to that foundationsu.com website and click on tools and look for DISC and career match, and you can do it online, which is probably quicker. And again, just kind of gives you an idea of what kind of careers and professions, just based on your kind of disposition and how you analyze things and how you operate on a day-to-day basis, you're suited for. All right, something to think about and put into your repertoire or toolbox of things when you're making decisions. Any comments, questions, contributions on anything you saw today?
We don't have to do the worksheet if we're like.
No, because I'd be, I guess my my inquisitiveness, I'd love to see, how it falls out for you. Because there's no right or wrong answer. It's mainly, it's just, as I alluded to in one of the videos, it's kind of a self-assessment. Where am I? And, how do I, it just kind of creates awareness in your mind, again, how you process things, all right, and how you work through struggles and trials and tribulations, which, boy, just considered in the last, 8 weeks since March 13th when we walked out of the door here, not to come back to normal classrooms. So there's no right or wrong answer. It's for your benefit and your knowledge, again, just to kind of, how do I, how you do it, but this kind of gives you kind of an assessment of why you are what you are. Other questions or comments on any of the 3 videos? All right, go around the table. You guys are seniors. Anything I've enjoyed having you this second semester. Some of you I've had in previous years. I wish you the best of luck from this point forward. Hopefully I'll see you on July 11th, I believe it is, at graduation. You can always keep in touch, at least for the next couple weeks. I'm here every day from 2 to 2:30 on the same Zoom link. If you want to check in at office hours and pick up an extra 10 points, or just check in and say hello, or how come I have a 0 for this? You do want to check Blackbaud because you may have some zeros in there that you are unaware of, either because you missed class or you forgot about it, or you submitted it, but it didn't have a name on it, so I couldn't assign it to you. Or there was a glitch with technology in Blackbaud and it didn't get admitted. I found a couple this morning that for some reason that stuff I'd put in yesterday that still were showing M's for people. So check behind me to make sure it accurately reflects your work for this quarter. Seniors, I'll give you any opportunity to say anything.
School.
Hunt, we love you, brother.
Love y'all.
Hey, Jeb.
Pretty sad, not gonna lie.
Hunt, adieu, oodooms.
Toot the toots.
I feel bad for seniors because you're only a senior once, and it's not the traditional fourth quarter of maybe of 16 quarters of Benedictine. It's
Hunt, poppy seed.
You don't get a do-over, but hopefully your senior year at wherever your next institution is that you go to will be last semester or last quarter will be a little more normal and enjoyable than what this quarter's been. Other thoughts, comments? Open the door, open the floor for anything.
Love you, sir.
Good luck. Thank you very much. Back at you.
Let's go.
Anything else?
Tennyson, I'm gonna miss you, brother. All right.
Chapter 7 test.
You guys are heading off. Come back for homecoming and some basketball and baseball games.
Jimmy.
All right.
Some golf matches, sir.
Tennyson, I'm definitely gonna come back with your number painted on my chest. All right, just letting you know.
That game will be dedicated to you.
Let's go.
Anybody else? All right.
Wait a minute. Don't get a cigar this graduation?
I took that Chapter 7 test, sir.
Who said they took the Chapter 7 test? Who was that? All right. So you guys, you juniors and solo sophomore, we'll be back here on Thursday at noon. So it's not over for you. We got 3 more classes to go. We're going to continue working our way through this chapter on careers, and then careers and taxes is kind of a crazy combination. I'll tell you a funny story. I've got twin boys. One of them did an internship last summer.
Sir, are we still doing graded assignments?
Yes, sir. For you juniors. He went to
see you, neighbors. Have fun.
He went to Facebook, and they paid him handsomely, and his monthly check was supposed to be in the $9,000 range, but his take home was in the $4,000 range. So basically half of his paycheck was going to Social Security, Medicare, California state taxes, and U.S. federal taxes. So it was a real eye-opening experience to him. And we are going to talk about taxes, particularly for you juniors and all, the last half of this chapter, probably next week. All right? Just a little personal story there. Okay. Any other questions, comments, or concerns before we call it a day? And I'll see you juniors on Thursday.
All right, Coach.
All right.
Well, have a good one.
See ya. Everybody have a good couple.